So how many of you, your parents told you not to do something and you went ahead and did it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, me too. All right, well, I have a short clip for you, and just watch and see what happens.
What's wrong? Huh? What's wrong? You can't get out?
Yes! Get me out!
I told you not to get in there.
Promise I'll stay out. Please.
Rock yourself back and forth.
I can't. Mom.
Try. Just try.
Mom, please. Mom, serious. Please.
I told you not to get in there.
Please.
Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Now you're stuck to... Push yourself out.
I can't.
Push yourself away from the wall.
I can't.
Work those arms.
My arm is stuck. Mom! Mom!
It's like a demon laugh,
Seriously!
Your arm's not stuck. Push.
I'm serious. My arm is stuck.
Push. Push. See, you can do it. Don't get in there again. I told you.
That's a good video.
All right, so today we're going to be focusing on Joshua chapter 3, and it's going to be about do as you're told that you may know where to go. I remember one time when I was a kid, my parents and my brother and I went up to Mount St. Helens, and we're driving, actually coming back from Mount St. Helens, and my parents told me not to drink any pop, but I thought it would be really cool to listen to be in a competition with my brother to see who can drink the fastest. Not a smart idea. Probably 10 minutes, we're not even down the mountain. I have to go to the bathroom really, really, really bad. I'm like, Mom, I gotta go to the bathroom, I gotta go. They're like, you gotta hold it. I'm like, I can't. Long story short, my parents take me to a restroom, but I didn't end up making it. I actually wet myself. My parents had to put towels down in the car, and this was like a 2-hour drive, so I had to sit in my wet clothes. That's just an example of listening to your parents, but also at the same time listening to what God tells you to do. In Joshua chapter 3, God had just set him over as the leader of the Israelites to take them across the Jordan River, because God had promised the Israelites many years before Joshua ever became the leader to go to the promised land. So in Joshua chapter 3, Joshua had sent out 2 spies to go into Jericho, and when they came back and gave Joshua the good news that God had gave them the land. And once Joshua heard this good news, him and his officers told the people, the Israelites, and the priests what to do, what God wanted them to do. So let's go ahead and look at Joshua 3:1 through 8. It says, early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God, and the priests, who are Levites, carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before, but keep a distance of about 1,000 yards between you and the Ark, and do not go near it. And so, I guess, who gave them the instructions? Was it Joshua who gave them instructions? No, it was God who gave them the instructions of where to go. And as you guys have known before, the Israelites, they it took them 40 years to get to this point because Moses was leading them. And so it wasn't supposed to originally take 40 years, but because they were disobedient to God, it took them 40 years to get there. And so God was the one who gave them the instructions. What happened when they did as they were told? In Joshua 7 through 8, and the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan waters, go and stand in the river." So God gave them further instructions. So before they had to prepare themselves in order to get to this point, and once they prepared themselves, they went. God gave them a next step to go to. So God didn't give them all these instructions at once, but He wanted to see if they can follow step by step. Because before they had proven to God that they couldn't follow the instructions, and for then it took them 40 years to get to the Jordan River. And so what did they? So what they did is that the word in Joshua 3:5, it says they concentrate themselves, they prepare themselves. We have to prepare ourselves in order for the things that what God has called us to do. Even though God has given us instructions, we have to, take the step of preparing ourselves beforehand, not just going and doing it right at the last minute. So, what does God tell us? God tells us what to do. So, and the reason why He tells us things to do is to protect us. He doesn't like seeing us getting hurt or wanting us to take a longer time to get to what He has called us to do. He wants us to experience the things that He has placed upon our lives. Just like that girl in that basket, the mom is like, "I told you not to get in there." The mom is laughing at her, right? Because she thinks it's funny. But as you saw, the girl was getting scared. She's like, I'm stuck and I don't know how to get out of the situation, But, the mom just didn't leave her there. Even if we don't always follow what God has called us to do, He will give us another step. He will give us another instruction of how to get to the place that He has called us to be. And so, He does this so that we may reach the things He has called us to do sooner rather than later. I was just thinking, it took the Israelites 40 years to get to where Joshua, to cross the Jordan River, to get to the promised land. And I'm just thinking, God, I don't want that for my life. I don't want to take 40 years. What is it that You have called me to do? How can I prepare myself in the instructions that You have given me? And the reason why He gives these instructions to us is because so we may grow closer to Him, so we may know and see and understand His love even more for our lives. And so what do we need to do when God tells us to do something? One of the three things that I picked out from this passage, Joshua 3, is that we need to listen to what He tells us to do. And then that we also need to prepare ourselves. That's number 2. How do we prepare ourselves? Well, for us, for Joshua and the Israelites and the priests, the priests had certain instructions that they had to follow by, which was carrying the Ark of the Covenant. And the Israelites, they had to follow behind the Ark of the Covenant. And then the people, they had to also follow with the Israelites as well. And so each of them had instructions that they had to go by. If one of them didn't follow by those instructions, they probably wouldn't have succeeded of crossing the Jordan River. And so the last thing is to go after it. I'm sure they are afraid, God, we have to cross the Jordan River. Could you imagine, here you are at a river, and then all of a sudden you're like, how am I supposed to get across this? Lord, you're really telling us to go to the Jordan River, to cross the Jordan River. But they didn't let fear get in the way of the calling that God has placed upon their life to the destination of the promised land. And God put Joshua there to help encourage them not to get discouraged, to have that faith, to keep going. So I just want to encourage you guys, to go, whatever God has called you to do, to go after it, to not let fear, stop you from the things that God has called you to do. Because I know for myself, I don't want fear to prolong the things that God has called me to do. And I'm sure you guys don't want that for your lives as either. I'm not saying that it would never happen if, like, if you do let fear get in the way of the things that God has called you to do. He will direct you to get back to that point, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. But for myself, and I'm sure for you guys, I'm sure you don't want it to be 40 years or 50 years to have it take that long to get to where God has called you to be. And so I just really want to encourage you guys with that. Don't get discouraged in the things that God has called you to do, and don't let fear get in the way of the things, the visions that God has placed in your life. So Lord, I just pray right now, God, that we wouldn't fear the things that you have called us to do. Lord, we would put our trust and faith in you, just as Joshua did. And God, that even though we may not see the full picture, the full calling on our lives, God, you know what you have in store for us. And God, I pray that constantly we just keep going back to you and asking you to guide us in the things that you have called us to do. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.